United States Air Force from 1966 to 1970 as Security Police Security Dog K-9 handler. He served in Okinawa in 1966 to 1967. Vietnam from January 1968 to February 1969, and also in the Philippines. His medals and awards include the Air Force Commendation Medal, Vietnam Campaign Medal, Vietnam Service Medal, National Defense Medal, Republic of Vietnam Cross of Gallantry with Palm, United States Air Force Outstanding Unit Ribbon with Oak Leaf and V Device for Valor, United States Air Force Good Conduct Medal, and the Expert Small Arms Ribbon. He is a life member of Bloomingdale VFW Post 7539, including two-time All-State Post Commander, All-American Post Commander, and All-State District Commander, and All-American District Commander. For those of you that have no idea what all that means, just trust me when I say that is a man that is totally dedicated to what he was doing for that post. He is also a life member of the Vietnam Security Police Association and a director on the board of directors of the Military Outreach Greater Chicago, a faith-based service organization that works with churches to establish military outreach programs. Please help me welcome Mr. Joe Palmer.
Thank you for that kind introduction, and thank you for being here this morning. When I woke up this morning and read the morning paper, I could not help but notice the number of Memorial Day sales that were being advertised. Mattress sales, car sales, Coke versus Pepsi sales, potato salad sales, everything advertised as a Memorial Day sale. I went to check my emails, and the spam box was filled with similar advertising. It seems that ever since the Memorial Day holiday was officially observed as the last day of May, it became the unofficial start of the summer, with barbecues, blockbuster movie openings, and those persistent sales. And sadly, nowadays, many Americans have forgotten the meaning and traditions of Memorial Day. At many cemeteries across the country, the graves of the fallen are sadly ignored and worse, neglected. I remember growing up as a kid that any grocery shopping had to be done in advance because the stores would be closed on Memorial Day. I would remember my dad topping off the gas tank of the car because the gas stations were closed on Memorial Day. I remember the parade we marched in, finishing up at the local park where a ceremony was conducted to honor those that had fallen. Where in my hometown, they would read the names of those who had fallen. I didn't understand it all, but I knew that it was important because everyone who was in that park on that day bowed their heads in solemn respect when the names were read and remembered. And now, I cannot help but think, what would the hundreds of thousands of American men and women buried in cemeteries across this nation, how do they think we honor them on this Memorial Day? Have we as a nation lost our sense of what this day is supposed to be? Have we as a nation so drifted from our founding fathers' dream of what this nation was to be that we fail to honor those that have fallen? Have we, the living, failed to instill in our young the true meaning of this day and the ultimate sacrifice by those whom we honor today? Have we forgotten the quote found on a wall at a liberated Japanese prisoner of war camp that said, "When you go home, tell them of us and say, for your tomorrow, we gave our today." I and my fellow Vietnam veterans have not forgotten. We who now bury the heroes of World War II, Korea, of our own war, and sadly, our sons and daughters grandsons and granddaughters from current wars. We know the meaning of this day. We, who some have called the discarded generation of warriors, have sworn a solemn oath that we will never let occur what occurred in our generation to those who serve today. And most importantly, we will never allow this, our most sacred of days, to be celebrated without remembering our fallen. At this time in our history, we are marking the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War, a war which, not unlike the Civil War in many respects, divided the nation, a war that pitted brother against brother, a war that pitted family against family, a war that tore at the very fabric of this nation. During that time, many in this nation questioned the value of patriotism. They questioned the value of service. They questioned, what did this nation stand for? Those that fought in Vietnam may have questioned as well, but they did not have time to protest, nor to occupy buildings. They were too busy serving their nation, fighting for and with their fellow warrior. For in war, it comes down to the person next to you. That is who you are fighting for and who you are fighting with at that moment in time. And in the end, we came home to a nation that wanted to ignore us, to a nation that wanted to forget its fallen. We had come home to a nation whose values had changed, a nation which no longer honored its military or those who served, a nation that made up songs chastising and mocking those who had fallen, a nation that had, as some would say, lost its soul. And through those times, we went through a rebuilding. We went to college. We went back to school. We went to work. We went to church. And yes, we went to Memorial Day services, never forgetting our fallen. We healed our wounds. It was a period of healing, of forgiving, and yes, of praying. And the culmination of that healing process occurred when in November of 1984, the Vietnam Wall was dedicated to those of our fellow comrades who died in Vietnam. Today, there are more than 58,000 names of our fallen men and women on that wall, and they are not forgotten. Yes, we memorialize the fallen in stone and plaques. We honor them in patriotic songs. We place wreaths on their headstones and plant flags of remembrance. But of far greater importance, we must remember them in our hearts and in our minds, not just on this day, but on every day. We must remember them as we do with this memorial. We must instill in our children and grandchildren the meaning of this day, for it is they who will be asked to remember in years to come. We will have our barbecues, we will have our sales, but the greatness of this day is that, as George Patton said, and I paraphrase, it is foolish and wrong to mourn the men and women who died. Rather, we should thank God that such men and women lived. And so, on this Memorial Day, let us remember the words of Abraham Lincoln's closing remarks of his Gettysburg Address, words which ring true today as they did some 150 years ago. We cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it, far above our poor power to act or to detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the final measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead have not died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, and for the people, shall not perish from the earth. May God bless our fallen, our military. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. Thank you.